First contact with the Nyx. The research vessel Helios hung in high orbit above EX 2547. Its sensors painting the jungle world in wavelengths far beyond human sight. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling emerald atmosphere below. 20 years of xenobiology research hadn't prepared her for what they'd found on this unassuming planet in the outer rim. Another one gone. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez reported from his station, his voice tight. Supply depot in Sector 7. No survivors. He paused, swallowing hard. That's the third this month. Sarah closed her eyes, shoulders tense. The initial colonization attempt had failed spectacularly, but no one had understood why until it was too late. The planet had seemed perfect. Earth-like gravity, breathable atmosphere, abundant flora. The advanced teams had reported nothing more dangerous than large herbivores. They'd been catastrophically wrong. "Play the last footage again," she commanded, turning to face the holographic display. The image flickered to life, showing the interior of the supply depot. For 30 seconds, nothing moved. Then, a shadow. Just a flicker at first, but Sarah had watched this recording enough times to know what came next. The creature that entered the frame moved like liquid darkness. 8 feet of rippling muscle covered in iridescent scales that seemed to shift color with each movement. Its 6-limbed body spoke of alien evolution, but the intelligence in its eyes was undeniable. Most of the galaxy's apex predators were brutal but predictable. This was something else entirely. The Nyx, as they'd been dubbed, hunted in ways that defied conventional predator behavior. They set traps. They used tools. They communicated in complex patterns that suggested far more than basic pack dynamics, and they were systematically eliminating every human presence on their world. "Council wants us to pull out completely," Rodriguez continued. "Recommend orbital bombardment to protect shipping lanes." Sarah's hand clenched into a fist. "No. Doctor, we're missing something fundamental here," she insisted, stepping closer to the display. "Look at the precision of these attacks. The timing. They're not just hunting for food. They're sending a message." Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "A message? They're animals, Doctor. Dangerous ones." "Are they?" Sarah challenged, pulling up another recording. "Watch this one. Supply Depot 4, 2 weeks ago." The footage showed another Nyx attack, but Sarah froze it at a crucial moment. The creature had paused at a junction, head tilted as it studied the human warning signs. "It's reading," she said quietly, "or at least it's recognizing patterns. No other predator species we've encountered does that." She turned to face the lieutenant fully. "What if we're going about this all wrong? Every other species that's encountered the Nyx has either tried to eliminate them or run away. But look at our own history. What did we do with wolves?" "You can't be serious," Rodriguez said, but there was a hint of curiosity in his voice. "You want to domesticate them." "I want to understand them," Sarah corrected. "And I think they want to understand us too. These attacks, they're methodical. They're studying our responses, our weaknesses. What if we showed them something different?" She pulled up her research notes, decades of studying Earth's domestication of various species. Humans have a unique gift. Throughout our history, we've formed partnerships with predator species that every other rational creature would avoid. Dogs, horses, big cats. What if that's our edge here? The bridge fell silent as her words sank in. Finally, Rodriguez spoke. "The Council won't approve any more ground missions. The risk is too high." Sarah smiled, a plan already forming. "Then we don't ask for a ground mission. We ask for a research station. Automated at first. Let them come to us." She turned back to the planet below, mind racing with possibilities. Every species in the galaxy sees the Nyx as monsters to be feared. But humans, we've never been good at leaving monsters alone. We study them, understanding them. And sometimes we make them family. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Sarah's proposal, backed by Earth's impressive history of animal domestication, caught the attention of several key council members. The alternative, losing access to a resource-rich planet and leaving a dangerous species to potentially expand their territory, was even less appealing. A small research station was established in orbit, with a single automated outpost on the surface. Instead of military-grade defenses, Sarah insisted on observation posts and simple food dispensers. "If they're as intelligent as I think they are," she explained, "they'll recognize this as different from our previous approaches." For the first month, nothing happened. The Nix avoided the outpost entirely, though their attacks on the remaining colonial installations continued. Then, on day 37, everything changed. Sarah was reviewing sensor data when the alert came through. A single Nix had approached the outpost. Unlike previous encounters, this one showed no signs of aggression. It studied the structure from various angles, occasionally manipulating the simple mechanical puzzles Sarah had installed around the perimeter. "It's problem-solving," she whispered, watching in fascination as the creature systematically worked through each challenge. "Look at that tool use." The Nix had picked up a fallen branch, using it to trigger mechanisms from a safe distance. When food was dispensed, it didn't immediately consume it. Instead, it examined each item carefully, even carrying some pieces away, presumably to its pack. "They're not just hunters," Sarah realized, excitement building. "They're researchers, just like us. Every attack, every interaction. They've been gathering data." Over the next few days, the same Nix returned repeatedly, each time displaying more sophisticated interaction with the outpost's systems. Sarah named it Atlas, after watching it map the entire facility's exterior with methodical precision. The breakthrough came on day 45. Atlas arrived at the outpost carrying something, a piece of colonial technology it had clearly retrieved from one of the abandoned depots. It placed the device near the food dispenser, stepped back, and waited. "It's trying to trade," Rodriguez said incredulously, watching the feed. "Holy shit, it's initiating an exchange." Sarah's hands trembled as she activated the remote release, dispensing a larger portion of food than usual. Atlas studied the pile, then carefully separated it into smaller portions, exactly matching the number of pieces they'd been providing in previous interactions. The remaining food was clearly meant as additional payment for the technology. "This changes everything," Sarah breathed. "They don't just understand tool use, they understand commerce, reciprocity, complex social interactions." She turned to Rodriguez, eyes shining. "We've been thinking of them as animals to be tamed, but that's not it at all. They're a pre-technological sapient species, and they've been watching us, learning about us, just as much as we've been studying them." The implications were staggering. Humanity's gift wasn't just domesticating dangerous creatures, it was recognizing intelligence in unexpected forms. While other species saw only monsters, humans had once again found potential allies in the most unlikely places. As Sarah prepared her report for the council, she couldn't help but smile. The real work was just beginning, but she knew they'd passed a crucial threshold. The Nix weren't meant to be humanity's pets or servants. They were meant to be partners. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humanity's talent for connection met an alien species that was equally curious about them, and nothing would ever be quite the same again. The bonding protocol. Dr. Sarah Chen's quarters aboard the Helios had transformed into a makeshift xenolinguistics lab. Holographic displays covered every surface, showing hundreds of recorded interactions with Atlas and, increasingly, other members of its pack. Each display tracked different aspects: movement patterns, vocalizations, color changes in their iridescent scales, and the complex arrangements they made with traded items. "They're not just making random trades anymore," she explained to the assembled research team. "Look at this pattern." The central display showed Atlas arranging scavenged technology in precise geometric patterns before each exchange. Other Nix had begun mimicking this behavior, but with subtle variations that seem to indicate rank or relationship within their social structure. Dr. Amit Patel, the team's xenolinguist, leaned forward. Those patterns, they're maintaining consistent internal logic. This isn't just mimicry, it's symbolic communication. Exactly, Sarah nodded. But here's where it gets interesting. She pulled up footage from the previous day's interaction. Watch what happens when we introduce the new variable. The video showed their latest experiment, a simple holographic projector placed near the trading post. When Atlas approached, it displayed basic geometric shapes that matched patterns the Nix had previously created. The reaction was immediate and unprecedented. Atlas had frozen, scales shifting through a cascade of colors, before settling into a new pattern they'd never seen before. Then, deliberately, it had rearranged the technological debris to mirror not just the displayed pattern, but to create a response that expanded upon it. They don't just understand symbols, Emmett breathed. They're trying to teach us their language. Lieutenant Rodriguez, who had become an unexpected ally in their research, crossed his arms. The Council's going to want more than pretty light shows before they approve direct contact. Then let's give them more. Sarah pulled up another display. We've been tracking their hunting patterns. Look at this. They're still attacking colonial installations, but with a crucial difference. No casualties in the last 3 weeks. They're deliberately timing their raids for when facilities are unmanned. They're avoiding unnecessary conflict while maintaining their territory. Dr. Emma Walsh, their xenobiologist, observed. Classic intelligent species behavior. But this level of restraint in an apex predator is unprecedented, Sarah finished, except in one place, Earth's history of domestication. But this is different. We're not domesticating them. We're establishing diplomatic relations with a pre-technological sapient species. The team spent the next month developing what they called the bonding protocol. It started with simple mathematical concepts, universal constants that could form the basis of shared understanding. The Nix proved to be quick studies, rapidly progressing from basic arithmetic to complex spatial relationships. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected quarter. Dr. Walsh had been analyzing the color changes in Nix scales, trying to decode their significance, when she noticed something extraordinary. The patterns weren't just communication, they were stories. Look at this sequence, she explained, highlighting a particular interaction. Atlas isn't just responding to our signals. It's describing events, past hunts, pack movements, territorial boundaries. Their scales are like living books. Armed with this understanding, the team developed a new holographic interface that could mimic the Nex's color pattern language. The response was beyond their wildest expectations. Within days, the Nix began sharing detailed information about their society. They learned that what they'd thought was one pack was actually a complex federation of family groups, each with its own territory and specialties. Atlas, they discovered, was something akin to a xenoanthropologist among its own people, tasked with studying the strange new creatures that had invaded their world. They're just as curious about us as we are about them, Sarah realized. Every raid, every interaction, they've been conducting their own first contact protocols. The implications staggered the research team. The Nix weren't just intelligent. They had a sophisticated society with its own sciences, arts, and philosophy. They lacked physical technology, but had developed incredible mental and social technologies instead. As understanding grew between the species, so did trust. The Nix began sharing information about dangerous areas of their world, marking safe zones for human research teams. In return, the humans shared knowledge about the wider galaxy and its many species. We need to move to the next phase, Sarah announced one morning, after another successful exchange session. It's time for direct contact. The room erupted in concerned murmurs. Even with their progress, the Nix were still incredibly dangerous predators. One wrong move could destroy months of careful diplomacy. We've proven they're sapient, Rodriguez pointed out. Why risk physical contact at all? Sarah pulled up an image from Earth's history, a cave painting showing early humans hunting alongside wolves. Because this is what we do. Throughout our history, humans have turned predators into partners not through force or fear, but through trust and mutual respect. The Knicks understand this better than we thought. They've been waiting for us to prove ourselves worthy of that trust. She highlighted recent footage showing younger Knicks approaching closer to the observation posts, displaying curiosity rather than aggression. They're ready. The question is, are we? The team spent another week preparing. They developed new safety protocols, emergency responses, and communication redundancies. But in the end, Sarah knew it would come down to something much simpler: the human ability to connect with other species on a fundamental level. On the morning of first direct contact, Sarah stood in the airlock of the new ground facility, heart pounding. Through the reinforced windows, she could see Atlas approaching, its scales shifting through patterns they now recognized as indicating peaceful intentions. "Ready?" Rodriguez asked from his security station. Sarah touched the small translator device at her throat, designed to reproduce Nick's color patterns across her specially designed suit. "Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to reach out to other species," she said. "It's time to prove that works on a galactic scale." The airlock cycled, the door opened, and humanity took its first step toward a partnership that would reshape their understanding of intelligence, communication, and the very nature of civilization itself. Atlas waited at the prescribed distance, its massive form somehow managing to convey both power and patience. As Sarah approached, she activated her translator, her suit rippling with the colors and patterns they'd learned meant peace, curiosity, and respect. The Nix responded with its own display, and added a pattern they'd never seen before. It took the translation system a moment to process, but when it did, Sarah felt tears in her eyes. The pattern meant teacher-student equal. The galaxy had always assumed humanity's success came from their technology, their determination, or their adaptability. But as Sarah stood face to face with one of the most dangerous predators in known space, she understood a deeper truth. Humanity's real gift was their ability to see past fear to possibility, to reach out and forge connections where others saw only threats. And that gift was about to change everything. Pack dynamics. The Galactic Security Council chamber fell silent as the massive doors swung open. Dr. Sarah Chen entered first, her diplomatic uniform pristine. Behind her, moving with liquid grace, came Atlas. The Nix's scales rippled with carefully controlled patterns indicating respect and diplomatic status, a display that most of the alien representatives couldn't read but instinctively understood as significant. The Mercurian representative's tentacles curled in obvious distress. This is unprecedented, bringing an apex predator into a diplomatic forum as a recognized representative of their species, Sarah completed smoothly. Which is exactly why we're here today. 6 months had passed since first direct contact, and the progress had been remarkable. The breakthrough that convinced the Council to grant this hearing had come from an unexpected source: search and rescue operations. A mining accident in the Outer Rim had trapped 24 workers in a collapsed tunnel network. Traditional rescue methods proved impossible due to unstable conditions. Then someone remembered the Nix's incredible sensory capabilities and problem-solving skills. Sarah played the rescue footage for the Council. The images showed 3 Nix, their scales shifting with determination, leading human rescue teams through the wreckage. Their ability to detect minute vibrations and changes in air composition had located survivors that sensors missed. Their strength and agility had cleared paths too delicate for machinery. 23 lives saved, Sarah stated. The first joint human-Nix operation, but not the last. The chamber erupted in overlapping conversations. The Arcturian delegate's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. One successful mission does not negate millennia of evolutionary programming. These creatures are designed to kill. Atlas's scales flickered with what Sarah now recognized as amusement. The translation device at her throat conveyed the Nix's response, And what are humans designed for? Yet they choose their path, as do we. The statement caused another stir. Most of the council hadn't realized how sophisticated Nick's communication had become. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They were about to learn a lot more. The Nicks aren't just cooperating with us, she continued. They're teaching us. Their sensory capabilities, their problem-solving approaches, their understanding of complex ecosystems. It's revolutionizing multiple fields of science. She brought up more footage. Nicks working alongside human researchers in the deep jungles of EX-2547, now officially named Nexus. Their ability to process and convey massive amounts of information through their color pattern language had led to breakthroughs in understanding the planet's complex biosystem. But more importantly, Sarah added, they're learning from us. The Nicks have begun incorporating human tools and concepts into their society, while maintaining their own unique culture and values. Atlas stepped forward, its massive form moving with deliberate grace. The chamber's security systems tracked every movement, but the Nicks ignored them. Instead, it began a complex color display that the translation system rendered in multiple languages. We were alone, Atlas communicated. Apex predators, yes, but isolated. Humans showed us something new. The power of connection, of choosing to be more than what evolution made us. The display shifted, showing recent developments on Nexus. Nicks packs had begun establishing permanent settlements near human colonies, creating shared spaces for research and cultural exchange. Young Nicks worked with human children in specially designed education centers, each species learning from the other's unique perspective. There have been challenges, Sarah acknowledged. Cultural misunderstandings, instinctive reactions to overcome on both sides. But that's what makes this partnership so valuable. We're proving that intelligence and civilization aren't limited to any one form or evolutionary path. She highlighted successful joint ventures. Nick's human teams exploring dangerous worlds, their complementary abilities making them unmatched at handling extreme environments. Archaeological expeditions where Nick's sensory capabilities had uncovered artifacts that had eluded detection for centuries. Emergency response units that combined human technology with Nick's instincts and strength. But perhaps most significantly, Sarah continued, we're learning that the galaxy's definition of civilization has been too narrow. The Nicks had art, science, and philosophy before they ever touched a piece of technology. They saw patterns in the universe that we, with all our instruments, had missed. Atlas's scales rippled with a pattern that indicated deep thought. Humans speak of domestication, it communicated. But that is not what happened here. We chose alliance, partnership. We saw in humans what they saw in us, the potential for something greater than either species alone. The council chamber had grown thoughtfully quiet. The Mercurian representative's tentacles had relaxed slightly. And what of the future? They asked. Where does this partnership lead? Sarah and Atlas exchanged glances. That's why we're here, Sarah responded. The Nicks have requested official recognition as a sapient species and membership in the Galactic Council, not as Earth's protectorate, but as an independent ally. She let that sink in before continuing. Moreover, we're proposing the establishment of a new division, the Xenological Cultural Exchange Program. There are other species out there that we've dismissed as mere animals because they don't fit our preconceptions of civilization. The Nicks have already helped us identify 3 potential candidates for first contact. The implications rippled through the chamber like waves. The galaxy had always classified species as either civilized or primitive, technological or natural, safe or dangerous. Humans and the Nicks were suggesting something revolutionary, that these distinctions were artificial, and that true civilization meant breaking down these barriers. Atlas's scales shifted to a pattern that the translation system rendered as both a challenge and an invitation. We were called monsters. Humans were called reckless. Together, we're proving that the greatest danger isn't in our differences, but in our failure to see past them. The council's deliberation lasted 3 days. In the end, they couldn't deny the evidence before them. The Nix were granted provisional membership status, and the cultural exchange program was approved for a trial period. As they left the chamber, Sarah noticed Atlas's scales displaying a pattern she'd never seen before. "What does that mean?" she asked. The Nix's response came with a ripple of colors that indicated deep satisfaction. "It means the hunt changes. In the past, we hunted for survival. Now, we hunt for understanding. And that teacher-friend partner is a far more exciting prey." Sarah smiled. Humanity had done what it always did best, seen potential where others saw only threat, found connection where others feared to look. And in doing so, they hadn't just gained powerful allies. They'd helped reshape the very definition of civilization itself. Admiral James Chen stood on the bridge of the ESS Horizon, watching the unprecedented scene unfolding before him. The massive exploration vessel, humanity's newest flagship, was about to embark on its maiden voyage. But what caught the attention of every species' newsfeed wasn't the ship itself. It was its crew. Humans and Nix moved in seamless coordination throughout the vessel. 5 years of partnership had produced innovations no one had predicted. The ship itself reflected this new reality, with corridors and workstations designed to accommodate both species' unique physiologies and capabilities. "Interesting design choice," remarked Ambassador Catal of the Arcturian Confederation, their crystalline form refracting light across the bridge. "Most species would have separated facilities." "Most species," James replied, "wouldn't have thought this partnership possible at all." He smiled, remembering his sister Sarah's first contact with Atlas years ago. Now, such interactions were becoming commonplace. The ship's senior xenobiologist, Dr. Maya Rodriguez, approached with her Nix partner, Shadow. The Predator's scales rippled with excitement as they discussed final preparations for their unprecedented mission. "The Mentary sector awaits," Maya announced. 3 potential sapient species identified by Nix sensory analysis, all previously classified as primitive fauna by standard metrics. Shadow's scales shifted in what the crew had learned to recognize as wry amusement. The translation system rendered their thoughts. Perhaps it is the metrics that were primitive, not the species they failed to understand. The impact of human-Nix cooperation had sent shockwaves through galactic society. Traditional power structures, based largely on technological advancement, were being challenged by new ways of measuring civilization. The Nix's sophisticated social structures and unique forms of art and science had forced a revaluation of what constituted advanced society. Not everyone was pleased with these changes. Several traditionalist factions had protested the integration of a predator species into galactic affairs. But they found their arguments increasingly difficult to maintain as success after success demonstrated the partnership's value. The Horizon's mission was the most ambitious yet, a 5-year exploration of previously overlooked systems, specifically searching for unique forms of intelligence and civilization that conventional surveys might have missed. The ship carried a revolutionary sensor array that combined human technology with Nix sensory capabilities, allowing them to detect patterns of behavior and communication that would have been invisible to traditional instruments. "First launch window in 30 minutes, announced Captain Sarah Chen Martinez, James's niece and the youngest captain in the fleet. Her appointment had raised eyebrows, but her experience growing up alongside the first generation of human-Nix partnerships made her uniquely qualified for this mission. She turned to address the assembled dignitaries and crew. "What we're doing here isn't just exploration. We're redefining what it means to be civilized, what it means to be intelligent. Every species in this galaxy evolved to survive, but humans and Nix proved we can evolve beyond our original programming." Shadow moved to stand beside her, their scales displaying a complex pattern that spoke of pride and determination. The two had trained together at the new Xenological Academy, part of the first class of officially recognized human-Nix command pairs. The ship's preparations continued as James led Ambassador Catal on a tour. They passed the specially designed research labs, where human scientists worked alongside Nix observers, combining empirical data with the Predator's incredible pattern recognition abilities. In the ship's gym, human and Nyx crews trained together, each species learning from the other's strengths and adaptations. Your sister's legacy, Catal observed, watching a young human researcher and their Nyx partner calibrating a new type of sensor. She saw possibility where others saw only threat. That's humanity's gift, James replied. We've always been good at looking past superficial differences to find connection. But the Nyx taught us something too, that intelligence and civilization can take forms we never imagined. The tour ended at the ship's observation deck, where they could see the massive space dock teeming with activity. Support vessels moved in precise patterns, their crews a mix of species working together. On a nearby platform, a group of young Nyx underwent their final orientation, their scales shifting with patterns that indicated both nervousness and excitement. They're the first generation, James explained, born after first contact, growing up with humans as partners rather than adversaries. They see possibilities we're only beginning to imagine. An alert chimed through the ship. Launch sequence initiating, Sarah's voice announced. All personnel to stations. As the dignitaries moved to the observation lounge, James watched the crew, human and Nyx, take their positions. The ship's systems hummed to life, a perfect fusion of human technology and Nyx biological insights. You know what the traditionalists fear most? Catal asked suddenly. Not the Nyx themselves, but what this partnership represents. You've proven that their entire framework for measuring civilization is flawed. James nodded. The galaxy thought technology was the only path to advancement. We proved there are other ways to be advanced. The Nyx aren't just our partners in exploration. They're proof that intelligence and civilization can evolve in ways we never expected. The Horizon's engines powered up, its revolutionary hybrid drive combining conventional propulsion with insights gained from studying Nyx neural networks. As the ship prepared to break orbit, James couldn't help but smile at how far they'd come. 5 years ago, the galaxy had watched in horror as humans attempted to partner with its deadliest predators. Now they watched in amazement as that partnership opened up new frontiers of discovery and understanding. The ship's communication system crackled with messages from the mixed human-Nyx crew, their excitement palpable. They were about to embark on a mission that would have been impossible for either species alone. But together, they were ready to explore not just new worlds, but new definitions of what intelligence and civilization could be. As the Horizon broke orbit, its crew, human and Nyx alike, looked to the stars with shared purpose. They weren't just exploring space. They were proving that the greatest discoveries come not from conquering our differences, but from embracing them. Evolution of partnership. A decade had passed since the launch of the ESS Horizon, and the Galactic Council chamber looked very different now. Where once there had been rigid segregation of species, now the hall was filled with a diverse mixture of forms and cultures. At the center of it all, Dr. Sarah Chen, now Senior Ambassador for Xenological Relations, stood alongside Atlas, preparing to present the results of their decade-long experiment in cross-species cooperation. The chamber's holographic displays came to life, showing scenes from across the galaxy. On a dozen worlds, newly recognized sapient species were taking their first steps into galactic society, each guided by human Nyx teams that understood the delicate balance between preservation and progress. 10 years ago, Sarah began, her voice carrying the weight of experience. We challenged this council's understanding of civilization. Today, we present the results of that challenge. Atlas's scales shifted in a complex pattern that the entire chamber could now understand, thanks to widely adopted translation technology. We have found 17 new forms of intelligence. They communicated, each unique, each valuable, each overlooked by traditional metrics. The displays showed their discoveries, a species of silicon-based collective intelligences that communicated through crystalline resonance, a gas giant dwelling culture that painted stories in atmospheric patterns, even a deep space-dwelling species that had achieved faster-than-light travel through biological means rather than technology. But our greatest discovery, Sarah continued, wasn't about finding new species. It was about finding new ways to be civilized. The footage shifted to show the transformed landscape of Nexus, the world where it had all begun, where once there had been conflict between human colonies and Nyx territories. Now there were thriving mixed communities. Young humans learned the complex color language of the Nyx, while young Nyx studied human technology and culture. The boundaries between the species had become wonderfully blurred. The Convergence Academy, Atlas indicated, highlighting a massive structure that combined human architecture with Nyx biological design principles, where both our species learn not just from each other, but from all the forms of intelligence we've discovered. The Academy had become the galaxy's premier center for xenological studies. Its graduates, human, Nyx, and now representatives from dozens of other species, were transforming understanding of intelligence and civilization across known space. We've moved beyond simple cooperation, Sarah explained. We're seeing genuine cultural exchange, technological fusion, and evolutionary adaptation. The evidence was clear in the newest generation of both species. Humans had developed enhanced pattern recognition abilities and heightened environmental awareness from working alongside the Nyx. The Nyx, in turn, had begun developing new color pattern languages specifically for interspecies communication, their scales capable of ever more complex displays. But the most profound changes were philosophical. The human tendency to seek connection had merged with the Nyx's inherent understanding of complex patterns, creating new ways of thinking about consciousness and civilization itself. The galaxy once feared us both, Atlas communicated, their scales rippling with thoughtful colors. Humans for their relentless expansion and adaptation, Nyx for our predatory nature. Now we show a different path, one where differences become strengths. The displays showed joint human-Nyx teams at work across the galaxy, exploring dangerous worlds, solving complex diplomatic challenges, and most importantly, helping other species bridge their own divides. We call it adaptive civilization, Sarah announced. The understanding that advancement isn't a linear path from primitive to technological, but a web of possibilities as diverse as life itself. The chamber erupted in a cascade of reactions. Light patterns from crystalline species, pheromone bursts from organic ones, and electromagnetic pulses from energy beings. A decade ago, such a mixture of communication would have been chaos. Now, thanks to principles learned from human-Nyx cooperation, it was a symphony of understanding. But perhaps our most important achievement, Sarah continued, has been in challenging the very notion of species supremacy. We've proven that true civilization isn't about dominating nature or transcending our origins. It's about embracing the full spectrum of possibility that evolution creates. Atlas moved forward, their massive form no longer inspiring fear but respect. Humans taught us that being apex predators didn't limit us to being hunters. We taught humans that being explorers didn't mean they had to conquer. Together, we learned that true power comes not from changing others, but from allowing ourselves to be changed by connection. The evidence was undeniable. Worlds that had adopted the human-Nyx model of cooperative development were showing unprecedented advances in science, culture, and social harmony. The old paradigm of technological supremacy was giving way to a new understanding of civilizational advancement, one that valued diversity of thought and form as much as technological achievement. We stand before you not as separate species, Sarah concluded, but as proof that evolution doesn't end with biological adaptation. It continues through choice, through connection, through the willingness to see beyond our limitations to our shared potential. As if to emphasize her point, a group of young graduates from the Convergence Academy entered the chamber. Humans moved with predatory grace while Nyx displayed colors that mimicked human emotional expressions. They were neither fully human nor fully Nyx in their behavior, but something gloriously new. The galaxy once asked what happens when humans domesticate apex predators. Atlas communicated, their scales showing a pattern that indicated both humor and pride. The answer was unexpected. We domesticated each other, and in doing so, became something greater than either of us could have been alone. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about two species finding common ground. It was about redefining what it meant to be civilized, to be intelligent, to be evolved. The human gift for connection had combined with the Nyx gift for pattern recognition to create something unprecedented, a way forward that celebrated differences instead of fearing them. As Sarah looked out over the assembled representatives of galactic civilization, she saw not the divided species she'd faced a decade ago, but the beginnings of something new. A civilization ready to embrace all forms of intelligence, all paths of evolution, all possibilities of connection. The future they'd created wasn't just about humans and Nyx anymore. It was about the fundamental nature of civilization itself, and the endless possibilities that arose when different species chose to see past their fears to the potential that lay beyond. In the end, that had been humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. Not the ability to domesticate predators, but the vision to see that true civilization meant learning to walk beside them as equals.